Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's IC Real-Time webinar. In today's webinar, we will be talking about IC Real-Time's Trade Agreements Act product series. This is a line of wholly manufactured products made out of our Korean factory. This is part of our plan to move from Chinese manufacturing into full Korean manufacturing. As time goes by, you're going to see many more of our product line move over to our Korean facility. I have muted everyone's microphone at the moment, but I will unmute everyone's microphone at the end of the webinar to field any questions anyone might have. My name is Michael Caballero. I'm one of the national sales executives here at IC Real-Time, and let's get started. So a little bit about IC Real-Time. IC Real-Time was founded by 3 US-based technology entrepreneurs. It introduced the iSniper low-lux chipset in partnership with Sony, launched the first 720-degree camera technology, and adopted AI technology to deliver cloud-based search engine. So we've been at the forefront of technology for a very long time. So what does Trade Agreements Act actually mean? An act of Congress that governs trade agreements negotiated between the United States and other countries, designed to foster the growth and maintenance of open world trading systems and expand the United States commerce and international trade. So these are a specific set of countries allowed to be imported for manufactured hardware to be used in government installs. So some of the banned countries for the Trade Agreements Act is China, Iran, India, Iraq, Indonesia, Pakistan, Russia, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. Of course, ours is manufactured in an approved country of South Korea. And like I mentioned, we'll be moving all of our IC Real-Time hardware manufacturing as time goes by to our South Korean facilities. Of course, we had this goal starting at the beginning of 2020, but as we all know, COVID kind of threw a wrench in things, and so it's kind of slowed down the movement because previously our intention was by this year to have all of our hardware manufacturing moved over to South Korea. So what is the TAA Series? It's an alternative to Chinese-made gear, of course, like I mentioned. These are not imported from countries that are prohibited. They're developed specifically to conform to TAA requirements. They are still superb quality and fortified against vulnerabilities. A goal we have very soon is going to be FIPS compliancy as well, to have the most hardened cyber secure gear in the industry. And this is separate from NDAA 889 compliancy, which we haven't made an announcement on just yet. So why would you want TAA? Of course, not made in China, made in South Korea, high quality insurance, of course, competitively priced. And as many of my dealers here know, when it comes to our TAA line, it is still competitively priced even with our Chinese manufactured gear. Not only that, you still have all of the technology that we have premiered even out of our South Korean facility as well. So privacy and secured quality, still have a 10-year warranty. They are still UL listed, still utilizing H.265 compression, still using our HTML5 no plugin interface, and still with best-in-class integration with all of the control systems in the industry. So what are some of the concerns that TAA products address? Cybersecurity being one of them. Again, we are some of the most advanced, technologically advanced manufacturers in the industry. You're going to have two-step verification. You're going to have minimum 8-character passwords on all of our hardware. You're going to have digest authentication as well. We've even brought some of our partners into using digest authentication. So for example, Savant previously was using basic authentication, and to have that partnership with IC Real-Time had to upgrade their security to digest authentication, as all of IC Real-Time's hardware utilized digest authentication, which is a higher factor authentication than basic. That, along with things like closing of telnet services, makes us one of the most secure manufacturers when it comes to cameras and recorders in the industry. So you're going to minimize firmware breaches, of course, country of origin. And this is not just for government install. Do keep in mind that the stigma of Chinese manufacturing is trickling down not just from government, but also to municipal and commercial as well, and even residential installs. So what are we doing about it? So in Q3, Q4 2018, that's when we plan to make that exit out of Chinese manufacturing. In Q1, we mapped out and executed a strategy for our South Korean manufacturer. We already had an already existing relationship with a South Korean manufacturer, as believe it or not, some of our line was manufactured in South Korea already. Then Q2 2019 produced the first SKU from South Korea. Q4 2019, we successfully executed the production of 4 of our top camera SKUs. We launched the TAA series with 10 camera SKUs and 2 recorders in Q2 2020. Then Q3 2020, we had 14 TAA cameras and 5 recorders. Q4 currently manufactures 3 NDAA 89 compliant recorders, our FX line of recorders, and our NVR 8128. And those NDAA 89 compliant recorders, what we did there is we removed the actual chipset that was the Huawei high silicon chipset that became banned by the US government. 2021, we've moved more camera SKUs as well as recorders into NDA compliant list of devices. And then, of course, Q3, Q4, on pace for 100% Korean manufacturing on all core SKUs except PTZs. And then, of course, for Q1 22, planning on offering a robust, complete NDA compliant line with wholly manufactured hardware from South Korea. So some of the cameras in the TAA line are going to be our IPFX B40V IRW 1s and 2s, our IPFX D40Vs, IPMX D20Fs, IPMX B20Fs, IPMX B40Fs, and our IPMX E20F. So bullets, domes, eyeballs, and of course our IPMX, very popular IPMX W20F and W40F, which is our wedge dome style cameras, all coming from Korea, as well as now some of our IPEG line. If you're not familiar, our IPEG line is our cost competitive line. So now you have options for cost competitive manufactured cameras at much lower price points between $80 to $120 dealer cost. You're going to have that available to you from our South Korean manufacturing. Not only that, our Dingo doorbell is now from South Korea, along with our FX line of recorders, our MX line of recorders, our EL128 recorder, and very soon you'll have your 6032, 6016, and 6064 recorders, which is our 16, 32, and 64 channel enterprise level recorders available from South Korea as well. We're adding more and more every day as time goes by. So keep a lookout. Every month we're announcing new SKUs that are coming from our South Korean facility. Here's a bit of our TAA camera demo. As you'll see, some of these are from previous webinars where we discussed our technology. But as you can see here, these are Korean manufacturing cameras utilized with technology of our perimeter protection along with our IND. So you're still getting all of that technology that you're used to, even with our South Korean manufacturing. So here, as you can see, we have our perimeter protection that's going to allow you to create areas of interest. And anything that enters, exits, or occupies those intrusion zones, you're going to receive a notification, and you're going to be able to play back video from those instances. Here's some of the recorders, like I discussed previously. These are all 4K capable 4K video output recorders. So our FX, like I mentioned, our MX line of 08 and 16 channels. Now, the difference between the NVR MX and the NVR FX line of recorders is basically chassis size. The NVR MX 08 and 16 is a shelf mount recorder, whereas the NVR FX 08 and 16 is a rack mountable recorder. So the chassis size different for that rack mountable functionality is the only difference you're going to see in the NVR MX and FX recorders. Otherwise, they are functionally very much the same. And then, of course, our NVR 8128, which is now our IPEL EL 8128. And I'd like to appreciate everybody's time here. And now what I'll do is I'll take any questions anyone might have. I do ask that if you have any question, you go to the top of your Zoom meeting. We do have a Q&A tab now where you can actually utilize this and ask any questions. And I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Todd, can you email a copy of this slideshow, please? First, let me get some, make sure that we have permission to share this, as these are not the slides that I usually create. So if I can do that, yes, I will definitely get you the slideshow. You'll also find a copy of this webinar on our YouTube page. If you go to YouTube and you type in IC Real Time and you go to our channel, you'll find the recorded version of this webinar. All right, well, it looks like no one else has any questions at this time. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on today's IC Real Time webinar. My name is Michael Caballero. I'm one of the National Sales Executives here at IC Real Time. Have a fantastic weekend and stay safe.